Hey guys, I'm Grace Torie, and you're listening to That Girl, the podcast. Grab a beverage of choice and settle in because the new episode is starting now. Hey guys, what is up? It's your girl, Grace Torie, and I am back with a whole new podcast episode. Guys, I started my job on Monday. It's been wild. I'll get into that in a second. Of course, I'll do my little 10-second updates. But before I do, let's talk about what today's episode is about. It is cuffing season, guys. It's cold outside. It's cozy. There's soup. The fireplaces are going. And everyone's getting engaged. And, you know, it's a good time to be in a relationship. So for my relationship girlies like myself, or my relationship dudes who are looking for some advice, I would love to just kind of talk about the things that I've learned in my dating experience. I'm not claiming to be an expert. I am learning just like everybody else, but I am currently in a relationship. We are about to hit 2 years in January. We live together. I've been in a long distance relationship before that. I've dated in college. I've done a wide range of things that I feel like I can give a pretty good solid advice like when it comes to a wide range of topics. So like I said, I'm still learning, but I think that this can definitely help you out if you don't really know what to do. I like to think that we have a really healthy, strong relationship and just like a strong bond. So yeah, but as I mentioned before I jump into that, a quick little life update. I started my job on Monday. I love it. It's so much fun. I'm doing sales. I know, she's a sales girly. But it's been really good. I am back in the office after working from home, and I haven't really worked in an office since like my first internship, my junior year of college, so that's been exciting. My phone just like randomly stopped working today because my mom got a new plan and didn't realize that it would just like make my phone stop working, so that was fun. But I did get an iPhone 14 and my mom brought it to me, so hopefully once I switch my phones out it'll work. But that was quite exciting. What else? I'm changing up the bunny rooms. The buns are gonna get a little bit of a room change. I've been cleaning the house. There's just a lot going on. Don't feel too great because of my allergies, but you know, I can't complain. It's a good day to be alive. So all of that is pretty much what's been going on here. Other than that, let's just go ahead and jump on in. So how to have a healthy relationship, a happy relationship, have a good time, you know? You have secured the bag, you have your partner, and you guys have decided to start dating. And now it's time to talk about how to keep that relationship going. I have kind of a hodgepodge of things. I have stuff for once you move in together, stuff for when you first start dating. So we're kind of gonna jump around. But now that you've started dating, it's time to work to keep that relationship going. So I know a lot of people say like, oh, when you're dating someone, it should feel effortless, or you really shouldn't put that work in. It should be natural. Like, that's just not true. Like, a relationship is work. It is a responsibility. It's added time. You have to do more things. It comes naturally to some people, but honestly, like, there are people out there who just aren't as romantic, or, you know, it's harder for them. So it is work, and it's fun work, and it's rewarding, but it still is something that you have to put effort into. So one big thing that takes effort, but honestly this makes or breaks anyone's relationship, so please understand the importance of communication. Learn your partner's communication style immediately. For example, Josh does not text. He doesn't text, like, ever. And I have really high anxiety, so when I text him and he doesn't respond for 12 hours, and his response is yeah, like Y-A-H, instead of saying yeah, whatever, I lose my mind. And I never really was bothered because, like, when I met him, I just kind of knew, like, okay, this is endgame, and I kind of got the same vibes from him. Not that everyone, I don't know if everyone feels that way when they meet, like, their person, but I've heard it's the same way. So, like I mentioned, like, it's work, but you'll know, it's gonna be rewarding. Anyway, getting off topic, when you know, when I wouldn't hear from him, I'd get a little anxious, and I'd be like, all right, why? Does he not care? Like, is he not interested? But no, he literally just doesn't text. Like, he doesn't text. He calls me if he needs something. I call him if I need something, but we're both pretty independent, so it's like, he'll see me when he sees me. We literally met, and we haven't spent the night apart since, so I can't, like, really say it's like we don't see each other, but we, like, during the day, like, I'll do my thing, you do your thing. I don't need to tell you every single thing I'm doing. If you ask, I'm happy to tell you, but, you know, and once you figure out their communication style, tell them what yours is, and you can kind of work out, like, hey, this is what I need to feel secure. That's another thing is, like, for example, if in a past relationship you have someone cheat on you through text, like, you have trust issues because of that, and there's nothing wrong with communicating and saying, hey, I know you, I know that you aren't the type of person to do this, but I do want to let you know in the past this situation happened, so I may be a little bit more anxious when it comes to you texting, and like, even if they don't mean to make it look like they're sneaky, like kind of like if they turn their phone slightly, like Josh does that, and it's not like he's literally just playing a game on his phone and he doesn't want it to, like, I don't know, like, so I may take it like the wrong way because I have anxiety than what he actually meant to do. Boys, for the most part, like, obviously this is like for any partner, but in my experience, boys specifically don't really strategize when they're doing things. Like, he just turned his phone that way because he felt like it. There doesn't have to be a reason for a guy to do something. And as women, from what I've learned, again, this can go either way, I feel like we tend to try and put a reason to everything that somebody does, but there doesn't have to be a reason. So that's important to know, but also just like be open, like, this happened in my past, I'm telling you right now, this is how I feel because of this situation, and lay it all out in the beginning. Understand the communication style, make sure they're aware of your communication style. Just because Josh knows I get anxious when he texts all day, he doesn't always text me, you know? Like, he told me, he said, this is kind of cute, he told me he set an alarm on his phone to call me every day at 3 o'clock, and does he always? No. Like, sometimes he gets busy at work and I don't hear from him all day, but the fact that he did that shows me that he cares. So communication is so big. Other ways to communicate is talk about your love language. I personally am not the biggest fan of like the love language quiz, because for me, I benefit from all of them, like words of affirmation, ways of acts of service, all of that. Like, obviously someone would want all of those, and I think that whatever I'm craving is what I'm gonna want the most. For the most part, I do have some insecurity, so I do like words of affirmation, but at the same time, if Josh does the dishes or something and I didn't ask him to, because that's something I typically do, that goes a long way. If I feel like gifts personally aren't my thing, but like, I would be, obviously, like, sometimes I really benefit from that. So it's good to know someone's primary love language, but I wouldn't take it as like weight in gold, this is the be all end all, because it's not all one size fits all. It's definitely good to talk about though, like, this is what I need to feel valued, this is what I need to feel validated. Like, have that conversation, but also like I said, it changes. Also, one thing I recommend is talking about your pet peeves. And I'm not talking like, oh, if you chew loudly at dinner. Like, no, obviously that's good for them to know, but like, not little pet peeves. I'm talking big pet peeves. Like, for me, there's certain like things, like if he, I guess this is kind of little, but if we've been laying in bed and he works 9 to 8 that day, and then he comes home and he gets on his phone, I will lose it. And maybe that is a little thing. I feel like it's a big thing because like, it's a big, like, I want to spend time with you, like quality time, you know, but maybe that's kind of little, but I go crazy. I get so mad. Like, I will literally be like, just go downstairs. Like, you might as well be downstairs. And that's kind of petty. I'm going to talk about that. But yeah, that's definitely something that you should tell them. Like, hey, it really bothers me when people are on their phone and we're watching movies. Things like that, like little things. And you don't have to tell them everything when you first start dating, but as things come up, be vocal about it. Be like, hey, you did this, and like, that's just something that I don't personally like. Can we maybe not? And, you know, be nice about it. As long as you approach everything with a attitude of like, hey, I would really appreciate it, and you're not being like sarcastic or petty or rude, like, people are gonna respect that. And like, your partner's not gonna be like, ah, screw you. They may forget, and it may take a couple times for them to kind of pick up on it. Literally, Josh does that. Like, it takes a couple minutes, a couple times, and he forgets all the time. But just telling them and maybe reminding them until they pick it up is fine, as long as you do it from a place of like, I really appreciate you and I'm not like judging you, but this bothers me type deal. Something else to bring up is your non-negotiables. Bring these up at the very beginning. Like, for me, a really big non-negotiable for me was I wanted someone who was setting themselves up for success. It doesn't mean that they have to go to college. It just means that they have to like have a job or have a plan to get a job or like go to college, like do something to show me that they are trying to do something with their life. And that was something that was not a priority to the person in my past relationship. And I would have avoided not wasting, but like, you know, being in a relationship that I didn't need to be in for 3 years of my life if I would have been like more vocal about this non-negotiable. Also, if I would have taken the red flags, you know, but whatever, that's a whole nother conversation. So be vocal. Like, if that's what you need, do it. Like, obviously, if you're like, man, I want someone tall and this guy's short, like, no, that's not, you know, physical appearance is not necessary. But if you are dating someone and they tend to match they're matching your non-negotiables so far, just letting them know that that's something that you really appreciate or you're really interested in, that's fine. And other non-negotiables are more about you. Like, hey, I go to the gym 5 nights a week and that is non-negotiable for me. I am very serious about my health. I do this, and because I do this, I need to go to bed by 9 every night. And there's gonna need to be some flexibility in that. Obviously, there's gonna be times when you guys go to dinner or something and you can't be in bed by 9, but saying, hey, this is important to me and I want you to know that I value this and I'm gonna try to do everything in my power to keep this going. That would be, you know, that's something that they need to know, and also that's something that they should support. Like, you shouldn't be dating someone who doesn't support your hobbies, your values, your interests, which I will also get into that. There's a lot to talk about today. Another thing that is so important is family. And I'm not saying that you can't be in a relationship with someone whose family does not like you, or vice versa, your family doesn't like them, but it definitely helps. Like, I know plenty of people who are married and they don't like their mother-in-law. Plenty of people, trust me. But for me, like, that was kind of a non-negotiable. Like, I wanted someone whose family I liked and whose mother-in-law respected me, valued me, and all that. Especially like my father-in-law as well. Like, obviously we're not married, but like, it was very, very important to me that I was respected by whoever I'm dating, whoever I end up marrying, their family. And that may not be as important to some people, but it's more important to me because in my past relationship I didn't have that. So remember that, like, it could get worse over time and you don't know what's gonna happen. So it's very important to understand their family and like if they like you or not. And obviously if you haven't met them yet, that's fine. But when it does get serious and that time does come, make sure that you are clear on that if that's something you want. And if it's not something you want, just understand the warnings that come with that. Like, it's very hard. I've been on both sides, and having a family that likes you and respects you and is willing to, you know, give you their blessing, so to speak, is so nice. And if your own family doesn't like who you're dating, that's a whole nother thing. But also take their warnings. You don't have to listen, but definitely take what they're saying into consideration. If you are not close with your family, maybe it's not as important, but to me, I'm very close with like my mom. So if she didn't like somebody, that's something I probably should listen to, you know? Just be smart. When you are dating someone, I think that it's very important that you have a plan or some sort of schedule that you can loosely follow and expectation set. So an example of this is we're gonna go on 2 dates a week. And by the way, I go out with my girls to, an example is we have bingo at one of our bars on campus, or by campus, on Tuesday nights. So before all of my friends moved away after graduation, yeehaw, we would go to bingo on Tuesday nights. and Josh doesn't really do bars. That's not his thing, which is fine, but I would tell him, hey, if I don't answer my phone or I'm not texting you as much, it's because I'm with my friends. So setting those expectations, like, I'm busy on this night, I'll text you, but I probably won't respond as much. We're gonna go on 2 dates a week. It's gonna vary on the day depending on how busy we are. Things like that is so helpful, especially if you're in a busy relationship where like both of you work, you're focused on your careers. For people like in their 20s, that's more common. If you're in a long distance relationship, this is super important, because if you don't really know when you're seeing them next or anything, it's harder to kind of be in the relationship. I know, like, it's not always, but for most people, they like having some sort of expectation. So, hey, we're gonna call each other every Monday at 8 p.m. And having that expectation is just so important. Next is be honest from the beginning. So I talked about communication, but there's also some sort of communication in terms of being honest about your past. Like, this is the future, but for me, this was so important for Josh because, I don't know, like, he just really values transparency and he didn't want to feel like he was wasting his time. So after we've been dating for a couple days, probably like a week, honestly, but for most people it'd be later, we just kind of dived into our relationship. I told him, like, hey, just so you know, like, before we started dating, I did hook up with this guy in your fraternity. Like, it's not anything, I don't have any feelings towards him, but like, I do want you to know so that if it comes up, like, you know. And it actually did end up being like, I'm glad I told him, because someone who like didn't like me in the fraternity texted him and was like, hey, you know, she hooked up with this guy, like, you should dump her. And it's like, I don't know why they would do that, obviously, like, no, but the fact that like I told him made it so much better, because he was like, yeah, she told me, like, we're transparent, like, we're honest with each other. And it would have been way worse if he didn't know. I feel like it like would have actually bothered him, whereas it didn't because I told him. So you see where I'm going with this? Like, being transparent from the beginning. Obviously you don't have to be like, hey, I hooked up with this person, this person, this person, every single person you've ever hooked up with, but it's good to know, like, knowing, this is kind of like TMI, but knowing someone's body count was really important for me, because it kind of tells you what kind of person they are. And a lot of times they ended up lying about it. Every single guy on the planet has a body count of 4 or 5. I'm telling you, every single guy. They actually don't, they just tell you that. So obviously you may not get somewhere with that, but that is something that I feel like is really common to ask, like, hey, what's your body count? Like, people ask each other that all the time, especially when you're dating or like you've just started dating. So that's something that I told Josh. Like, I didn't until he asked me, but I was like upfront about it. So these are just like things, like, be honest from the beginning if there's anything you feel like they should know. We're gonna talk about living together. I could do a whole episode on this. If you want me to do a whole episode on living together and wanted to dive into more, tell me, just comment on this. If you are listening on a platform where you can't comment, go on my Instagram or TikTok and let me know. But at a high level, I feel like these are very important things that could be helpful to you. So I'm just gonna talk about what we do that has been really helpful. Like I said, it's at a really high level. I can dive into stuff more if you want me to. But in terms of living together, we designate chores. So it's not like set in stone, but it pretty much is. Like, if there's a time where I need help, or I'm like this week where I've been working and it's my first week working these hours and like out of the house in a really long time, Josh has kind of done some things. Like, I've asked him for help, like, hey, can you throw laundry in there? Can you do the dishes? Things like that I would normally do. But for the most part, I have a list of chores that I do, and I'm responsible every single week, however often it needs done, I'm responsible for it. And then Josh has a list of chores that he's responsible for. And it's not like 50-50, it's like, hey, you work more than me, so I'm gonna do more chores types thing. Like, I have more than he does because he works 20 hours a week more than I do. But like I said, if we need, it's like not set in stone. We don't like fight over it. Well, we do fight, but it's only if I ask him to do something and he doesn't do it that I get mad. Like, it's more of, hey, I need you to pick up the slack here, I'm having a rough time, and they'll do it. But other than that, like, if everything goes as planned, this is our set in stone. We also have designated space or rooms. He has a music studio, I have my office. If there's anything, like, my office is decorated super girly because that's where I kind of put all of my girly decor that I wanted. And then his studio has like all of his posters and flags and stuff that I didn't really want all over the house. And if there's anything that we don't really know where it goes, and it's like his or mine, and it's like something super, like for me, all of my YouTube and podcast stuff goes in my office. For him, if he has any, like his Oculus, if he has any video games, if he has any music stuff, and we don't really know where to put it, it can go in his studio. Well, in terms of designated spots, we have like a spot in our closet where he puts all of his stuff, where I put all of my stuff. We have a spot where we put food, and it's like having designated spaces where we can put our own stuff has been super helpful. And then we have a designated space for the pets. We have a designated space for, let me think. What else do we have designated space for? Crafts, tools, all of his car stuff goes in a certain place. Like, we have space to know where things go. And like, there is stuff we share, like food. We have places where like cereal goes and stuff like that, but we share food, so it's fine. But when it comes to our own stuff, we have certain places where we can put each other's stuff, and we know like that's a good spot. So just having places where things goes in general, you need to have a space for every single thing in your house, but having space where we can just put our own stuff and it's like our place, like having our own room, is super helpful. Honestly, like 10 out of 10. I know not everyone can afford that, but if you can, definitely go for it. For us, it was the same price to have a how many ever bedroom house that it was to have like a 1-bedroom apartment, because of the atrocious amount of rent that the price is right now. So it just kind of worked out. But even if you just have like a designated closet or a designated corner or a designated cabinet, like somewhere that you can put your stuff. We have a loose schedule of like cleaning days. So I like to clean on Friday afternoons and Sundays. Josh is off on Tuesdays and cleans. I usually leave like a light list of things for him to do. Like, he usually works on his car on Tuesdays or does something around the house, and I'll do like 1 or 2 extra chores, like, hey, can you get the laundry out of the dryer and fold it, or something. Like, I don't give him like a set thing every single time, but it's usually like, hey, we need a sweep, can you do that? Something where he's home and he can do it, but it just changes. For me, I'm kind of the one who does most of the cleaning in our house. He'll do more of like, the dogs need dog food. Our oven like randomly clamped shut a couple weeks or months ago, and he fixed that. Like, random stuff he does, and then I do the standard stuff like cleaning. When it comes to our food, cooking, diet, we are all over the place. I want to eat healthier. Josh doesn't really care. He'll eat pretty much whatever I give him. So that's really nice. Definitely talk to each other about what your diet is. You should kind of know if you've been dating for a while, but that's something that's really important. I didn't realize how important a diet was, but once you live with someone, it's really hard and twice as expensive to keep food in the house if you are living 2 different lifestyles. Josh will be fine getting Cheetos for the rest of his life, and if we went to the grocery store and he got to choose what we got, he would get Cheetos and Frosted Flakes. I, on the other hand, am not fine with eating Cheetos for the rest of my life, and if I go to the grocery store, I buy chicken and pasta. So it's really important that you talk to each other about common ground, to like compromise. A whole communication, compromise, your entire life is about compromising in a relationship. And if you are 2 stubborn people like me and Josh are, it's a lot harder, but it's still very, very important. I didn't even put compromise on my notes because it's something I'm still learning, so I can't really give you advice on it, but I do know that it's very important. And with food, it's something that we've had to compromise on, because I tried to put quinoa on Josh's plate one night, and he was like, he tried it, like he did, you know, the respectful thing, and he tried it, but he was like, okay, this is not my thing, I'm still hungry, I'm gonna go make some cereal. And we had to kind of like learn, but trying to find middle ground of like meals that you both like is so important, as well as trying to find food you both like from the grocery, so that you're not spending twice as much on groceries, so that he gets what he wants and you get what you want, or he or she. Sorry if I say like he a lot, it's because I am like a straight woman. I've only dated guys, so when I think about it in my mind, like I'm just like reflecting back on my own relationship. But I do, like, obviously he, she, they, whatever you identify with, that is who I'm talking about. So I do apologize for for that. It's just me in my own head thinking about Josh and like what's worked for us. So yeah, I think that it's really important to kind of have the expectation of who's gonna cook dinner and what night. So I was primarily cooking dinner when I was at home, and now I've asked Josh to cook the past 2 nights because I've been exhausted. So kind of talking about it and stepping in and saying, hey, I can do it this night, I can do it this night, and saying on this night we're both really busy, so once a week we're gonna eat out. It's very important to put like a boundary, like, oh, I'm only gonna eat out 1 or 2 nights a week, instead of just letting it get out of hand, because we've done that. But yeah, just kind of knowing what's gonna happen and having a loose idea of what you're gonna eat and who's gonna do what is very important. Something that is so important, they talked about this on Call Her Daddy, and I'm so glad Alex talked about it because it was very important to me when I was moving in with Josh, and I'm glad that that episode came out right when we were moving so that we could do it. But talk about finances before moving in. I know that like you don't want to ask about their salary, but it's actually so important when you're moving in to know what you can afford. Don't let them kind of say like, oh, I can afford a $2,000 a month rent if they can only afford a $1,500. Know exactly what you're going into. Crunch the numbers. Understand what you can afford. And on that same note, have the conversation of what utilities are going to go in your name, what utilities are going to go in their name, who's going to sign the lease. I recommend both of you sign the lease, but one of you can sign the lease. How much of rent you pay is like very important, and in my opinion, I don't think that rent should be 50-50. Or you can kind of put, sorry, my phone keeps going off. My Nana's on her way to drop off soup and stuff because she's really cute, and she's texting me that there's like an accident nearby. So sorry, I like looked down there. I was texting when I was talking, my bad if you're watching this on the video. But anyway, kind of have a loose idea of what you can afford. If you can afford $150 electric a month, like know exactly what you can afford, because it's rising, especially here in Kentucky. Electric, water, all of that has gone up and it's insane. But yeah, if you want to do it combined, if you want to do, I'll pay this utility, you pay this utility, there's like flexibility there. But when it comes to rent, definitely have a set idea of like, you pay this percentage, you pay this percentage, because I personally think that it should not be 50-50. I'll get back to this. Hear me out. If your boyfriend is making $90,000 and you're making $40,000 and rent is $1,000, $500 of your paycheck is gonna be way more, and you may not be able to afford anything else. Like if you're paying the water bill, you may not be able to pay the water bill and rent. If you're buying groceries, if you need to pay for your car payment, there's things like that that you won't be able to do. So figure that out amongst yourself, what percentage how evenly you think that should be split. But the 50-50, it's just not possible. Like we tried it and he just makes way more than I do, and it was not, we just couldn't do it. So I think that that's something to definitely keep in mind. Like I said, talk about salaries, talk about things like that. Also, talk about extra personal expenses. I have a horse. I have to pay like her rent monthly. He has cars. He has to pay like everything that comes with having a car. If he wants to buy a new fender for his car, or he wants to buy new wheels for his car, that's an extra expense. And it's important that you know. We really are good about, hey, I can't really pay my portion this month, can you cover me and I'll get you later. Like that's kind of what we do, and it's worked really well for us. But for some people it's not as helpful to do that, and they benefit more from, hey, like this is a strict thing. So know what you're comfortable doing, communicate finances however you need to, but definitely talk about them in depth before you move in. So on to the next topic, respecting each other's hobbies, friends, and anything else that makes them who they are. I think it's important to understand that when you start dating someone, all of those things is what makes them who they are. It's what makes them an individual. It's what gives them their individuality. So you need to respect that. you're not going to change them. Do not go into a relationship thinking, oh, by the time I'm done, they're not going to do this. They're not going to be friends with this person. Nope, because it's their life. It's not yours. And in like a healthy adult relationship, you can't do that. You can't pick and choose what part of them you like. Also, it's really important to understand that they need that time for their mental health. If I don't go out and ride my horse, it like actually affects my mental health. I am in such a better mood after I go see my horse. And, you know, Josh is very respectful of the gas that goes into that, the cost of that, because it makes me happy and it's part of who I am, and I pretty much have covered it without his help this whole time. There's been times I've asked him for help, but things like that, like, it's a part of who I am. It's very important to just not only be respectful and supportive of that, but to encourage it. There's been times when Josh hasn't hung out with friends or done anything for a couple weeks because he's been really down about work. Not down like, oh, something bad happened, but like down like he's tired type situation. So I've had to say, hey, I really think you should go hang out with your friends tonight. And if he chooses not to, that's fine. But letting him know that I support him hanging out with his friends and he doesn't need to hang out with me 24/7, and I support him having a car and working on his car, that's so important to someone, especially if it's something that they enjoy doing. Them knowing that you are appreciative, or you, not appreciative, but you enjoy that they enjoy that, like it makes you happy that they have something like that, is just like the best feeling in the world. Like, you don't want someone to be around who doesn't support your hobbies. It doesn't matter if you like knitting or if you like skydiving or whatever it is. People like supporting you, especially someone you love who is like one of the most important people in the world, is so important. There is something I need to talk about, and that is friends or family, but mainly friends, because that's what I've had experience with, that you don't like their friends that you don't like. There's a way to do this the right way, and there's a way to do this the wrong way. The wrong way would be pushing it down their throat that you don't like them, constantly talking about to your significant other how you don't like that they're friends with this person, rolling your eyes every time they bring them up, things like that, telling them they can't hang out with them anymore. You should not do that. They are adults. It is not your decision. There's a right way to do this. Wait for them to bring up that friend, and they're gonna know when you, like, they're gonna know if you don't like them. They're gonna tell by your disposition. They're gonna tell by your reaction. Even if you try and hide it, they're gonna know, which I don't recommend you try to hide it. But what I do recommend is what I did with Josh, is if he thought something was the coolest thing in the world and I was highly offended by it, like for example, he had someone in his life who was a friend, and they made like a comment towards me, and he was like this, like he didn't really think anything of it, and he brought it up and was like, yeah, you know, when they said that, like whatever, like brought it up in passing. And I said like, hey, I really don't like that. I don't vibe with that. I don't appreciate it. Like, if someone who has those values, like I personally don't like that, and I just want you to know, like, that tainted my view of them. Like, I don't see them in a good light anymore because this was highly offensive. And if it's like one thing, it's fine. But when it got to the point where I was like, okay, I don't like this friend. I don't want to be around them. And, you know, he brought up, oh, this friend said this or this friend did that. And I said like, hey, I waited for him to bring up something that bothered me, or after we hung out, like after I was around him, I brought it up and said, hey, so-and-so said this, or so-and-so did this, and I just want you to know, because I value you and like I know that you value my opinion. I did not appreciate when so-and-so did this or said this because of XYZ, and this isn't the first time they've done it, or they've also said or done this and it made me feel this type of way, and because of this, I do not really want to hang out with them when you're around. I understand that like this is not my friendship, this is your friendship, and I know that you value my opinion, but at the end of the day, it is your friendship. So if you want to hang out with them, go ahead. If you want to continue to be friends with them, that's on you. But I personally will not be continuing to be friends with them or continuing to hang out with them. If you guys hang out, like, I'll go hang out with my friends or do something else. And by saying that, you're basically like taking any blame off of you. Like your partner knows how you feel, and from that point forward, they can do with that information what they want. Don't fault them if they continue to be friends with that person, because you don't know their past. You don't know why they're friends. You don't know like the things, like Josh could look at me and be like, hey, I think this friend is really petty. She said she didn't like me, but like in my eyes, we've been friends for 5 years. I love them, you know, it's just, you know, whatever. So that didn't happen, by the way. So if you're any of my friends watching this, he likes you, don't worry. But what I'm saying is, like, you don't know the context. So you can disapprove of a friendship, but it's not your call to make. So you can be vocal about it. Say it once, move on. Don't keep throwing it in their face and being like, I don't like this person. Oh my God, why are you hanging out with them? Rolling your eyes, sighing, being vocal about it. That's petty. We don't do that here. And there's no need, you know? So that's basically how I'll go about that. I know that's a common thing that people go through. Like, they don't like their significant other's friends and it causes a strain on their relationship. And don't make them ever feel like they have to choose between you and a friend, because that's just not the way to go. Like, their friends should still be in their life and you should still be in their life, like, at the same time. And it's okay to not like them, but don't make them feel like it's an ultimatum. My personal feelings is that you should still be independent within your relationship. A relationship is not two people morphing into like some sort of in between. Like, you are your own person, you have your own interests, they have their own interests, and I feel like at the end of the day, you should be coming together and complementing each other. You should be making each other better. You should be improving each other and pushing each other to make these dreams that you have come true and meet these goals. And it should be a very positive thing. You shouldn't be bringing each other down. You shouldn't be, you know, trying to change each other. Like I said, you should never go into a relationship feeling like you're gonna change them. At the same time, don't fall in love with someone's potential. Like I said, I was in a relationship where I knew this guy had potential to be so successful and to do so many great things, but it's just potential at the end of the day. If they don't act on it, you're wasting your time. So if you don't see an action plan, if you don't see like a physical proof that this person is who they say they are, or they're really close to becoming, don't fall in love with the potential person that they can become. Take them for face value. If they have a red flag, see it. Don't pretend like it wasn't there. Take them for who they are. Lastly, I'm gonna end on this, because this has been the thing that has kept me and Josh so healthy. It's our communication skills. But specifically, if there's something off or if there's something wrong, whether it's you're having a bad day, you're overstimulated, or whether it's he hasn't been giving me as much attention and I really wish that we, you know, there was a little bit more romance, or he's been busy with work and it's stressing me out, like things like that, you need to tell them. I tell him. I've really had to dial back how much I tell him, because you don't really want to be like, every little thing that bothers you, you need to tell them, because there's things that I tend to overreact about. Like, I get kind of petty, and he just, like, I don't need to be mad at him about that. So I need to like look inward and be like, Grace, you're being dramatic, and then stop. So basically, gauge yourself, understand when you're kind of overreacting, and understand when you really need to tell someone something. But definitely tell them. Like, don't play games, don't be petty, don't get caught up with like the little stupid things, but tell them when there's something wrong. Just be vocal about what you need. If you need more romance, if you need more alone time, if you need more anything, be vocal about it. So I think that's what I'm gonna end on. I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me. I think this is a longer one of my videos, so yeehaw for that, right? I hope this was helpful. Let me know your favorite part of this episode if you have comments, like on YouTube, let me know down below. If you don't have comments, let me know on my last Instagram post. I love you guys so, so much. I hope that your relationships are happy and healthy and thriving. You mean the absolute world to me, and I will see you in my next podcast episode. I upload on every Sunday and Wednesday. And I think that's pretty much it. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe if you're on YouTube. Leave a rating or a review if you're on any other platform, and I will shout you out if you leave your Instagram. I really appreciate it. It helps out my channel more than anything in the world. Don't forget to follow or subscribe or friend on whatever platform you're on, and join this community of girlies all working to become our own version of that girl. And lastly, don't forget to follow me on Instagram to join the community full time, as well as TikTok. I make TikToks as often as I can, but I post on Instagram. I try to post, I think, 4 times a week, 2 to 4 times a week, somewhere in there. So it's a good time. I love talking to you. DM me if you need anything, literally ever. And I think that's it. I will see you in my next video. I love you guys so much, and bye.
You was the first